Could you imagine if you took a chimp and tried to get him to live in everyday society? Could you imagine how the chimp would react when someone barges into him on public transport? Could you imagine how the chimp would react when he has to do public speaking and has 40 people staring at him at once? Could you imagine how successful the chimp would be if you tried to get him to do work for 12 hours? The chimp's brain and mind is adapted for living in and surviving in the jungle, not for civilization. But guess what? We still have part of our brain called the limbic system, which is adapted for surviving in the jungle. And this part of our brain is the source of many of our negative emotions, such as anxiety, stress, and lack of motivation. The chimp mind management model is based on scientific facts and principles, which have been simplified into a workable, easy to understand, and easy to use model. And it helps you to understand this chimp part of your brain so that it doesn't work against you. The human brain can be divided into 6 main parts, and the book chooses to focus on 3 of these. The parietal, which is referred to as the computer, the frontal, which is referred to as the human, and the limbic, which is referred to as the chimp. Although they try to work together, they can clash. Your chimp, known as your limbic system, is evolved from when we were monkeys living in the jungle. It is a primal system which serves to keep you alive and away from danger. No chimp, no survival of a monkey in the jungle. The chimp processes information primarily through feelings and impressions. As speed is important, it doesn't have time to make complicated logical decisions. The chimp quickly assesses the situation, rapidly reaching judgments and conclusions. You can see how that would be really useful in the jungle, but isn't so necessary in modern day society. The chimp thinks in quite black and white, and it makes opinions which are harsh and unforgiving. The chimp thinks short-term survival with little regard to longer-term consequences. Maybe you're on a diet and you have an urge to eat a donut, and that is the chimp. Because your chimp is built to survive in the jungle, it senses danger everywhere, and this makes him sensitive, neurotic, and paranoid. The chimp has powerful drives of sex, dominance, food, security, and territory. The chimp in us will not change, but you have a choice in how you behave to any suggestion from the chimp, because any suggestion is only that. It's an invitation to act or think in a certain way. We also have a frontal lobe, referred to as the human, where more human functions are carried out. In terms of evolution, it's a much more recent addition that helps us to understand and rationalize the world. No human, no civilization. The human inside us is evidence-based and rational in its decisions. The human makes slower, more complicated decisions by gathering facts. But the problem is, by the time the human has made his assessment, the chimp has already reacted. The human inside us masters self-control and discipline, which the chimp lacks. The human also is forward thinking and thinks about consequences and long-term behaviours before making a decision. The human and the chimp are 2 separate thinking machines that independently interpret our experiences. There is also the computer, spread throughout the brain, which is a storage area for programmed thoughts and behaviours. It stores information on how the chimp and the human can react. The computer runs 4 times faster than the chimp and 20 times faster than the human. The computer holds information about your identity, your limiting beliefs, and your self-esteem, as well as pre-programmed responses on how to handle situations. Both the human and the chimp use the computer as points of reference, and it means that if you work on building your identity, your limiting beliefs, and your self-esteem, it has a positive impact on both your chimp and your human. Both the human and the chimp can influence our behaviours. How do you know when the chimp is in charge? Well, Dr. Peters says you can ask yourself, do I want to feel this way? Do I want to be doing what I'm doing? And if the answer is no, not really, then it is the chimp pulling the strings. You can tell if the chimp is hijacking you if you have unwelcome thoughts and feelings, struggle to live life the way you want to, sabotage your own happiness and success, act impulsively and regret it later, procrastinate or can't stick to resolutions. Your human may try to take back control from the chimp, but the chimp is much quicker and stronger than a human, so you may not succeed. Let's say that you are at a social gathering, but you can't help but feel anxious and tense. Your human knows that there is nothing to be afraid of, but your chimp is hijacking your emotions. Dr. Peters tells us that we cannot free ourselves from our chimp, but if we want to be happy and successful, we have to get good at managing our chimp. The first thing to know when managing the chimp is that any thought or action it tells us to do is only a suggestion. And the second thing to know when managing the chimp is that the chimp is stronger and faster than a human, so if you try to beat the chimp with willpower or speed alone, you will be unsuccessful. There are 4 main strategies for managing your chimp. Exercising your chimp. Exercising your chimp is letting your feelings out in a safe place. This could be privately or with a person you feel you can confide in and who will not place judgment. Once we let the chimp express himself and say everything he wants to say, he is calmer and more open to be reasoned with. Boxing your chimp is using your human side to talk to your chimp with truth and logic. You can agree with your chimp and at the same time offer alternatives. For example, say you have to do a public talk at work and your inner chimp is making you feel scared and anxious. Ask your chimp, what is the alternative if I don't do it? What you are doing is training your chimp brain to listen to and accept your human rules. You may have to do this many times, but eventually it will become easier and more automatic as it is programmed into your computer. Sometimes you can box your chimp straight away and other times you will need to exercise it first. Eventually you will box your inner chimp and your human will take over. These next two are short-term focused when you need to temporarily divert the chimp. The first is rewarding the chimp. This is effectively giving your chimp a banana for being a good chimp. If I work on my assignment for the next 3 hours, I will watch the latest episode of Game of Thrones. Distracting your chimp. I'm not sure if you watched this, but at the 1998 World Cup, the French soccer player Zinedine Zidane headbutted another player in complete rage. This was an example of the chimp hijacking a system. In a situation like a football match, there might not be time to, reason with your chimp and box it in, so something like distracting the chimp will be perfect. What you do to distract the chimp is you count down from 10 to 1, and because you're giving yourself so much time, you allow your human to have an input into your reaction. If you respond straight away, your chimp is quicker, but by taking some time to give your human an input, you get a much more human response. The Chimp Paradox also gives some great advice for dealing with chronic stress. Chronic stress is not the type that comes from the moment, but recurring stress. The chimp doesn't let go easily, even though it's completely irrational to hold on. So the human in us has to come up with steps for letting go. Some practical steps for letting go are relaxation techniques such as meditation and yoga, gaining perspective on the situation where you really see how petty your problems are compared to how big other people's problems are. And this can be done through talking to a friend, because often you realize how pointless and monkey-like your thoughts are once you start talking with a friend. And remember that you are in charge of your feelings and reactions, and any suggestion from the chimp is just that, it's a suggestion. I hope you found this video useful and it helps you to realize when your chimp is taking over so your human can take control again. If you want to see more like this, make sure you subscribe because I've got plenty more to come.